The way of the world is to bloom and to flower and die. But in the affairs of men there is no waning, and the noon of his expression signals the onset of night. His spirit is exhausted at the peak of its achievement. His meridian is at once his darkening and the evening of his day. Cormac McCarthy from Blood Meridian. So in the last couple of years of college, I got really into gardening. Um, we lived over on the east side of Austin off 13th Street, right behind Sam's Barbecue. I think their sign out front said, "You don't need no teeth to eat our beef." Good place, but we had a large backyard, and I turned the entire backyard into vegetable garden for 3 seasons. We got a spring, fall, and a spring garden out of it, and I was really drawn to a few different aspects of having a vegetable garden. The soil is crucial and important. We happen to have nice soil on the east side of Austin. Um, but if you don't rotate crops, you don't take care of the soil, renew the soil, it'll stop yielding. It'll just get used up. I was drawn to the idea of plants cooperating with each other. So I would experiment with different plants, like, for example, putting green beans around tomato plants to help insulate and retain water. And then like the entire life cycle process was really drawn to the idea that a plant or a garden can't just exist indefinitely, right? It needs to a season to start and a season to die, go back into the ground and come back stronger. If you just let it grow indefinitely, it withers and dies and stops producing fruit. I felt like, I could carry these into my business endeavors or whatever it is that I moved on to post college. So when I agreed to work for my father, jump on, those ideals like almost immediately were thrown out the window. He had a much different approach to life and to business. For him, it was all gas all the time. Um, Within the first month, I think he told me that if everyone did a line of Coke in the morning, the world would be a much more productive place. And that was sort of his approach and mentality to work, right? We were just going to work ourselves into the ground. That's pretty much what we did. He employed a very fear-based management style. He was a big, like large, imposing man that strongly believed that if the people under him didn't fear him, that they wouldn't, put in their hardest work. They wouldn't. They would slack off, and the company would fail. When I started that approach, it kind of led to burnout on his part. He was tired of fighting with his people, with the clients, and so on. So I was brought in to help sort of stabilize that environment so he could get some rest and then come back a little bit stronger. So we set out. I took on that just work myself into the ground mentality. I learned an enormous amount. I felt like every day there was my hardest day at university. I was learning stuff new all the time. It was constant and it remained constant for the 10 years that I was there. Even though we never really took breaks, like I was able to sustain that for about 10 years. And we had a meteoric growth. We went from doing nice houses and nice commercial work in the Central Texas region to doing international jobs, 5-star hotels, casinos. I think we did half of Vegas. So we had achieved, that exponential curve of growth that people look for when they're starting in business, like the American dream. We had gotten there, but as I got to the top, the last few years there, I got, it was lonely. I didn't do anything other than work, right? I sort of disregarded and ignored my immediate family. I had small kids that I just wasn't really paying attention to. I'd grown grumpy. And I had sort of taken on that fear-based approach of management style. Like in work or in life, like you had to, get in line, do what I was, you know, dictating to do. Um, so it's a management style that I think is incredibly common, particularly in that industry, any of the construction industries. And it's a management style that I absolutely detest and would never ever want to go back to. I'd lost myself. I was definitely not the leader I'd ever intended or wanted to be. Um, Although effective, I decided to I just needed to make a clean break, and I did. I stepped away to sort of go back into the ground to renew and to find myself. And it's taken me some time, but you know, 10 years after that, I feel like my current position provides opportunities for an alternative leadership style. One where I can lead from the rear end, not being in the front. I'm not the band leader.